Welcome to the It Factor. We're Jemmy and Nye, exploring a new blog post by Mr. Len Kaplan, CEO of CDML, a managed service provider in Queens, NY.
Right, and they offer network management, voice over IP, UCaaS, cybersecurity, compliance, infrastructure as a service, cloud solutions, and Microsoft 365 and Azure solutions.
Exactly. So if you're a small business owner or manage IT for a growing organization, this deep dive is for you.
It really is a crucial topic today.
It is. And I actually want you to take a second and think back to the very last virtual meeting you were on. Just picture the moments right before you clicked join.
Oh, the pre-meeting panic.
Yeah, exactly. Did you find yourself doing that frantic last-minute desk sweep to hide the clutter in your background?
Or maybe you were, 10 minutes into the presentation and had to do the classic apology because a siren went off outside your window.
Or your dog just suddenly started barking at the mail carrier?
Right. It is basically the defining shared experience of the modern professional landscape.
It really is.
We just spend an inordinate amount of cognitive energy managing and, honestly, often apologizing for our physical environments.
Which is wild when you actually stop and think about it.
Yeah.
Because we spend hours preparing our notes, refining our slides, rehearsing all our talking points for client meetings.
Oh, absolutely.
Yet we completely ignore the built-in system tools that actually dictate how we look and sound to the people on the other side of the screen.
Yeah, we just leave it all to chance.
It's akin to buying a $1,000 flagship smartphone, right, and only ever using it to make standard landline-style phone calls.
That is a great comparison. It's a huge waste of potential.
So that brings us to our mission for today's deep dive. As we mentioned, we are unpacking a piece by Len Kaplan from CDML titled AI Video Call Enhancements in Windows 11.
Right.
We're going to look at the really powerful tools sitting right under your nose that can fundamentally upgrade your professional presence.
And real quick, just a reminder that we publish new deep dives every Tuesday and Thursday, so you'll definitely want to stick around for those.
Yes, definitely tune in. So let's get into it. Kaplan's analysis focuses on a suite of features known as Windows 11 Studio Effects.
Right. But to really grasp why these specific tools are such a paradigm shift for anyone managing a business or a remote team, we have to look at the underlying architecture.
Okay, the architecture.
Yeah, we have to look at where these tools actually live inside your computer.
Let's follow that thread because, the obvious pushback here is that meeting platforms already do this.
Sure.
If I open up Zoom or Microsoft Teams, there's already a button to blur my background. There's already a toggle in the settings menu for noise suppression.
Right. Everyone has seen those buttons.
So why should anyone care about Windows 11 doing this if the apps already handle it perfectly fine?
Well, it comes down to where the processing happens in the pipeline. When you rely on Zoom or Teams to blur your background, you are relying on app-level processing.
Okay.
So the raw, messy video and audio feed goes from your webcam into your computer, through the operating system, and finally into the specific meeting application.
Right.
And then the application has to scramble to clean up that feed before broadcasting it live.
Which means you are entirely at the mercy of whatever app you happen to be using that day.
Exactly.
Like if a client sends you a link for a platform you don't normally use, say, Google Meet instead of Teams, you might suddenly find yourself scrambling.
Scrambling through unfamiliar settings menus, trying to turn your blur back on while the client is watching you.
Yeah, that is the worst.
It is. But Windows 11 Studio Effects operates at the system level.
Okay.
So Windows is intercepting the raw data from your camera and microphone, applying the AI enhancements, and then feeding a clean, perfectly polished virtual signal to whatever application you open.
Oh, wow. So to visualize that, it's like installing a massive high-end water filtration system at the main plumbing line of your house, right?
I like that.
Rather than attaching a cheap, tiny filter to every single individual faucet. Because it's handled at the source, you just know the water is going to be perfect no matter which tap you turn on.
That is a brilliant way to frame it. The system-level approach guarantees absolute consistency.
Makes sense.
Whether you are on a downloaded desktop app, a web browser version of a meeting tool, or some proprietary platform a client forced you to download 5 minutes before the call.
We've all been there.
Right. Your audio and video remain uniformly professional. You never have to configure your aesthetic settings again.
But wait, doing that level of filtering at the main pipeline has to take a ton of power.
It does.
Because if the operating system is meticulously applying a blur to a 1080p live video feed, 30 frames a second, before the meeting app even opens.
Yeah.
A standard processor would just melt. That kind of computational heavy lifting would normally cause a laptop fan to sound like a jet engine.
Oh, completely. And the video would lag terribly. Which brings us to the hardware reality that Kaplan outlines in the article.
Okay.
You just can't run this level of artificial intelligence on any old laptop.
Right.
While basic noise suppression might work on standard systems, the truly advanced AI processing requires a specific class of machine known as a Copilot PC.
And the defining feature of a Copilot PC isn't just like a faster processor, right?
Right.
It's a completely different architectural component.
Exactly. It is the inclusion of an NPU, or a neural processing unit.
NPU, got it.
To understand why this matters, look at how traditional computers are built. You have a CPU, the central processing unit.
Right, the brains.
Right, and that is your generalist. It is designed to handle a little bit of everything, running your spreadsheet, keeping your browser open, managing the operating system.
Okay.
And then you have the GPU, the graphics processing unit, which is built for rendering images and video games.
But neither of those is actually optimized for the specific mathematical demands of artificial intelligence.
They aren't. AI relies on really complex matrix multiplication and neural networks.
Right.
If you force a CPU to run a live AI video filter, it processes the data sequentially, which is way too slow, and that leads to lag.
Yeah, nobody wants a laggy video feed.
And if you force a GPU to do it, well, it can handle the parallel processing, but it requires a massive amount of electricity.
So your battery dies instantly.
Basically, your laptop battery would drain in 20 minutes, and the thermal output would just be enormous.
So if the CPU is, say, the head chef trying to manage the entire dinner service, coordinating the appetizers, shouting orders, keeping the whole restaurant running,
Right.
you can't suddenly tell that head chef to drop everything and meticulously julienne 50 carrots by hand. The whole kitchen would just crash.
And you wouldn't use a massive industrial wood chipper, the GPU, to chop those carrots either.
No.
Because it is total overkill and consumes way too much energy. So the MPU steps in as your dedicated sous chef. It is a piece of silicon specifically engineered to run AI workloads locally, efficiently, and with incredibly low power consumption.
So the sous chef takes all that highly specific prep work off the head chef's plate.
Exactly. The MPU processes your video frame by frame, applying the complex AI models in real time, completely independently of your main processor.
That separation of labor is really the magic here.
It really is. Because the NPU is handling the AI, your CPU is completely free to run your presentation smoothly.
Right.
Your computer stays cool, the fan stays quiet, and your battery life isn't absolutely decimated, even during like a 3-hour client workshop.
That's huge. Okay, so knowing that this dedicated hardware is sitting there, quietly powering these enhancements, let's actually look at what it is doing to the feed.
Let's do it.
Kaplan highlights 3 major features in the Windows 11 Studio Effects suite.
Yes, the big 3.
Let's start with the visual side, background blur. And we should clarify, this isn't the rudimentary halo effect blur we were all using 4 years ago.
No, not at all. The underlying technology has evolved significantly. Early blur features used simple edge detection.
Right.
They essentially just guessed where your shoulders ended and the room began.
Which is exactly why your hands would constantly disappear if you moved them.
Yes. Or your hair would look like a weird, blurry helmet.
Yeah, those early filters were constantly flickering, like they were trying to figure out what was human and what was a bookshelf.
Today, though, the MPU is performing real-time semantic segmentation.
Semantic segmentation.
Right. The AI model has been trained on millions of images to understand depth and context. It isn't just looking for flat edges, it is actively identifying you as a 3-dimensional subject.
Oh, wow.
It creates a pixel-perfect map of your silhouette 30 times a second and applies a true depth of field effect to the background.
The psychological impact of that is massive for a meeting.
How so?
Well, if your background is a cluttered home office or like a busy coffee shop, your client's eyes are naturally going to dart around the screen.
Oh, for sure.
They're reading the titles of the books on your shelf or watching a person walk past a window behind you.
Yeah, it's distracting.
But by softening that environment, you force their visual focus entirely onto you and your message.
It creates an immediate sense of privacy and intentionality. You are curating their visual experience.
Speaking of curating the visual experience, let's move to the second feature, because this is where the AI starts to manipulate our physical geometry a bit.
Yes, eye contact correction.
High contact correction.
This is perhaps the most sophisticated capability Kaplan details in his post. It directly addresses the fundamental flaw of video conferencing hardware.
Which is the webcam placement.
Exactly. When we are having a natural conversation with someone on a screen, we look at their face. But their face is in the middle of our monitor, and the camera lens is perched an inch or two above the monitor bezel.
Which means that, geometrically, it is physically impossible to look someone in the eye.
Right. From their perspective, you are perpetually looking slightly downward, essentially avoiding their gaze.
Yeah.
And in human interaction, sustained eye contact is the bedrock of trust, confidence, and active listening. Losing that in the digital space creates a subtle but pervasive psychological disconnect.
But I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
If I am looking down at my desk to read a physical document, or if I am checking my notes on a secondary monitor, doesn't it look incredibly unnatural if my digital eyes are just locked dead center, staring unblinking into the camera lens?
I mean, yeah.
Because there's a fine line between attentive and downright creepy.
That is a very valid concern, and it is exactly why the NPU's processing power is so critical here.
Okay.
It is not just applying a static, pasted-on graphic of open eyes. The AI maps your facial features and subtly warps the pixels around your pupils to shift your gaze upward just enough to meet the lens.
Subtly being the key word there.
Yes. So it is a micro-adjustment, not a complete override of your behavior.
Oh, okay.
If you completely turn your head to look at a second monitor, the AI recognizes that the angle is too extreme and disables the effect seamlessly.
Oh, that's smart.
It preserves your natural blinking and your micro-expressions. It simply bridges the 1-inch gap between the center of your screen and the camera lens.
So in a high-stakes sales pitch or a critical performance review, that subtle correction just makes you appear profoundly more engaged and confident.
Exactly. And hey, if you want to dive deeper into all of these features yourself, you can visit cdml.tom.com and subscribe to the blog.
Yes, definitely do that. It is fascinating to see technology fixing the unnatural behavioral quirks that technology itself created.
It really is an interesting cycle.
Right. So we've fixed the visual environment with the blur, and we've fixed the physical geometry with the eye contact. But honestly, the thing that derails my meetings faster than anything else isn't what people see.
It's what they hear.
Exactly.
Audio quality is consistently undervalued in remote work setups, yet poor audio causes vastly more friction than poor video.
Oh, absolutely.
You can follow a presentation if the video is slightly grainy. You cannot follow a presentation if the speaker's voice is buried under static and background noise.
Which brings us to the third feature, noise suppression. And again, just like the blur, we have to distinguish this from the old-school audio filters.
We do. Traditional noise suppression relies on noise gating.
Right.
The software basically just mutes your microphone whenever the volume drops below a certain threshold.
But if a siren wails while you are actively speaking, the gate is open, and both your voice and the siren are broadcast at full volume.
Exactly. Or you get that awful clipping robotic sound where the software is just indiscriminately chopping off frequencies.
I hate that sound.
Me too. But the NPU approach uses machine learning models trained specifically on audio waveforms.
Okay.
The AI has analyzed thousands of hours of human speech and thousands of hours of non-human noise, dogs barking, keyboards clacking, HVAC systems humming.
So it knows the difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't just mute the microphone, it actively subtracts the acoustic waveform of the background noise from the live feed.
So it separates the specific frequency of your vocal cords from the random acoustic chaos of your environment.
It isolates your voice in real time.
Yeah.
You could have a delivery driver ringing your doorbell or someone aggressively typing on a mechanical keyboard right next to you.
Which happens all the time.
Right. And the AI filters that chaos out, ensuring your voice comes through with absolute clarity.
Man, when you zoom out and look at these three features working in tandem, the depth-mapped blur, the geometric eye correction, and the waveform noise suppression, you start to see the massive organizational impact here.
You really do.
This isn't just about making one person look nice on screen.
Oh, no. It is about standardizing communication across an entire company. Hybrid work is no longer a temporary arrangement. It is the structural reality for most businesses.
And the main challenge of hybrid work is the total lack of environmental control.
Exactly.
One day, your project manager is leading a call from a perfectly quiet, acoustically treated office conference room.
And the next day, they're working from their kitchen table with a toddler in the next room, or they are logging in from a busy airport terminal.
Right. Studio Effects acts as the great equalizer.
Yes, it allows your team to present a unified, polished, and professional front regardless of their physical location.
The client, on the other end, experiences the same high-quality interaction, whether your team is in a corporate suite or a shared co-working space.
And from a purely financial perspective, that is incredibly liberating for an IT budget.
I bet.
The traditional solution to poor remote presentation was basically just to throw expensive hardware at the problem.
Right. Companies were buying $400 4K webcams, professional studio lighting rings, and expensive boom microphones for every single remote employee.
And hoping the employee actually knew how to set them up, which they rarely did.
Rarely. Now, the software powered by the NPU is doing the heavy lifting that previously required a studio's worth of gear.
Which leads perfectly to the pivotal business decision Kaplan addresses.
Okay, what's the decision?
If these tools are the ultimate equalizer, the immediate question for anyone managing an IT budget is, do we need to replace our entire fleet with Copilot PCs immediately?
Yeah, because upgrading hardware across an entire organization is a massive capital expenditure.
It's huge.
How do we evaluate when it is time to pull the trigger and when it is smarter to just hold off?
Kaplan outlines very pragmatic criteria. The decision hinges entirely on your organization's workflow.
Okay.
You should strongly consider upgrading if your team spends a significant portion of their day on client-facing video calls.
That makes sense.
If your revenue depends on pitching, consulting, or presenting remotely, the ROI on a flawless, distraction-free meeting experience is immediate.
It is a direct investment in your brand perception.
Furthermore, if your company is already approaching a standard hardware refresh cycle, say, your current laptops are 4 or 5 years old.
Right.
It makes strategic sense to invest in NPU-equipped devices to future-proof your fleet for the next wave of AI capabilities.
But if a business owner is listening and thinking, my team only does internal check-ins on Friday mornings and our current machines are perfectly fine.
Then the advice is to wait. Technology should solve existing friction, not create new expenses for the sake of novelty. If your current devices are meeting your needs without bottlenecking your workflow, there is no need to rush an upgrade.
Yet, even for companies that do make the investment, Kaplan points out a massive, often overlooked trap.
Yes, the hidden opportunity.
Let's say a business goes out tomorrow, buys top-of-the-line Copilot PCs, and hands them to every employee.
Okay.
They have the NPUs, they have Windows 11, they have the capability.
Yeah.
But they still suffer from terrible meeting quality.
Because they completely neglected the human element.
Yep.
Having the capability is meaningless if the workforce lacks the awareness to actually utilize it.
It is the equivalent of buying a fleet of high-performance, manual transmission sports cars for your executive team, but never actually teaching anyone how to drive a stick shift.
That is exactly what happens.
The cars just sit in the parking lot, stalling out in first gear. You spend all the capital, you possess all the horsepower, but a total lack of basic training means you extract zero value from the investment.
Organizations assume that deploying the hardware is the finish line. In reality, the deployment is just the starting line.
Right.
Employees need to be shown where these settings live, how to configure them, and why they actually matter.
This is where the role of a managed service provider like CDML Computer Services becomes highly relevant.
It really does.
It is not just about a vendor selling you a box of laptops.
No, a proper technology partner evaluates whether your specific workflow actually necessitates a Copilot PC upgrade in the first place.
Right. They prevent you from flying blind on a major capital expense.
And if the upgrade does make sense, they manage the implementation. They optimize the Microsoft 365 environment, ensure the operating systems are secure and compliant.
And crucially, they handle the training so your team actually turns these tools on.
Exactly. Technology should be an invisible engine driving your business forward, not a daily source of frustration or a compliance liability.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
So bringing all of this together, the core takeaway here is that you likely have an immense amount of untapped potential sitting dormant inside the machine you use every single day.
You really do.
By understanding the architecture of your hardware and simply locating and enabling these system-level studio effects, you can instantly take control of how you are perceived in the digital space.
You no longer have to apologize for your environment.
Yep.
You can filter out the chaos of the real world and maintain a focused, professional presence with just a few clicks.
It fundamentally changes the dynamic of remote communication. And hey, if you're getting value out of this deep dive, go ahead and click the thumbs up button.
We really appreciate it.
But as we wrap up our analysis of these tools, looking at how incredibly powerful and, frankly, subtle this AI has become,
Yeah.
it leaves me with one lingering, somewhat provocative thought.
Ooh, what's that?
Well, if an NPU can now seamlessly correct our eye contact, so we look perpetually engaged. And it can instantly erase every chaotic distraction from our background and surgically remove the noise of our real lives so we appear perfectly attentive and polished on screen.
Okay, I see where you're going.
How long will it be before our digitally perfected AI-enhanced selves set a standard of professionalism that is completely impossible for us to live up to in a real-world face-to-face interaction?
Wow. When digital perfection becomes the baseline expectation, raw, unedited human reality might start to look a little disappointing.
Exactly. Something to mull over before you walk into your next physical conference room. We're Jemmy and I. Thanks for listening. Till next time.